Hey guys, it's Bina, and welcome back to another video. Today, it's going to be a PoE 2 video. I have been playing this league, and I have been enjoying myself quite a bit. I initially started, as you know me, on ballistas, or rather mortar cannons. I started on Warbringer. I played this build in 0.3 on Titan, on the Warbringer. I also did a version with Ancestral Bond, and then they buffed Ancestral Bond this patch. But there's some new stuff for this build that is the Gemling. So I want to make like a small initial build guide for this to introduce it to you guys, because I've been asked so many times on stream to present a build guide. So I do have a max roll link for you guys. Which is going to be here, which is going to be the Mortar Cannon Gemling, which we're going to go into details as to how and exactly what my choices are and why it works so well. This is probably one of the best league starters that I've played. Well, not only that I've played, but I think this is probably the best league starter that is not played currently by many. I know some people have played it. I know that PoE Guy has been a Ballista enjoyer as well in PoE 1 and PoE 2, and also does play Mortar Cannon. I am also like a Giga Ballista enjoyer, as you know me in Last Epoch, back in the days in Wolsen, in PoE 1 as well. I just like the Ballista playstyle. I know Tiziantel also played this at some point in a previous patch. But anyways, that is just to tell that I am going to be presenting to you guys my version of this build, which I think is absolutely amazing. And it just deletes all content in the game, 200% deli. Like anything that you want to do in this game, you can do it with this build, and it's absolutely amazing. So let's go straight into maps and see. So currently my map has, it's a 6 modded map, corrupted, probably 7 modded map actually, with like take extra monster deal 80% damage as extra fire, 70 extra lightning, they have more life. We have Delhi here, which is only at 10% though. So basically, like, as you can see, I have like many buttons on my bar, but oh, wait, was that it? You actually only really have to use one. Like, you can use some other buttons, but it's mostly just like extra stuff that you get, and it's not actually needed. There's a very nice skill that was introduced this patch, which is Refutation. So if you know Last Epoch, in Last Epoch, if you play a mage, you know how you always grab Flame Ward on mage pretty much for tankiness? Well, I think that most builds that don't do that much thing with ward this league, you kind of have to use Refutation. Refutation is just Refutation is just a very nice defensive buff that makes you block all hits and apply parried to enemies that you block. The downside is that it will increase your the stuns that you are getting. So it lowers your stun threshold basically. So what this does is, in Path of Exile, block makes you prevent the damage entirely of hits. So you take no damage against hits while you press this skill. And stun, we don't really matter. It doesn't really matter for this build because, as you can see, you just summon your mortar cannons, and these guys won't get stunned. So even if you do, then these guys still kill everything on the screen. So it doesn't really matter. It's just like an upside. And on top of that, Refutation gives you access to 50% more attack damage. So they take 50% more attack damage if they hit you. So it just gives you 50% more damage. You are invincible. And yeah, you get 2 charges of this, pretty short cooldown. I think this is completely busted, but I guess I don't know. We're just gonna use it for now. So what I'm doing is I am summoning my mortar cannons here. Very easy playstyle. And then if I want to do something for a single target, I can use cluster grenades, manually used, which is going to be a sort of like a shotgun ability, which will make all of the explosion happen at the same time, because the detonation time on Gemling of cluster grenade is very low. So there's a Gemling node that increases the we're all gonna go into details after this map. I just want to show the mapping here, but it reduces the detonation time based on the quality of the gem, and you can increase the quality of the gem quite a bit. So why is this build better on Gemling? Well, Gemling has access to, as I said, detonation time. So we're going to have way better single target with Cluster Grenade without having to compromise on our clear for our Mortar totems. And on top of that, you get 2 totems with the quality on Mortar Cannon. So not only do you get +2 totems, but you also get, you know, plus projectiles on explosive grenades. You get, there's all of your skills get extra things that are just buffing it quite a lot. Not only that, but the Ascendancy also has some other points that will go into details as to what they do. And here you can see that, you know, just everything just melts completely. So let's finish this map here. Wanted to show like really clearly how nice this build is. Oh, wait, this boss might actually bug out. Because I think he's immune at the very, very start, so we won't be able to actually kill him right away. As you can see, we're also a life build, so we are a life and evasion character. Which we're gonna see pretty soon how that works exactly. Okay, and so that's it. So that is it for the gameplay. You can pretty much one-shot anything in the game with this. All right, so first we'll go over the gear that I'm using and what I'm using in terms of defense. So the main thing that I'm doing here is Sunken Vessel. I am converting all of my armor to evasion rating, and the reason for this is, on the Gemling Ascendancy, you get access to Virtuous Barrier. What is Virtuous Barrier? It is a buff that is always active. It doesn't cost any spirit, but you can support it with spirit supports, right? So I'm putting on some Her Declaration for 10% less damage dealt by enemies that are intimidated, and 10% increased damage taken. Increased damage taken in Path of Exile is a separate multiplier because it acts on the actual monster, so it's really, really good. A 30 spirit for this, life regen, and I have this is just for an extra gem slot. But Virtuous Barrier gives you motes, and each of these motes get removed whenever you take damage from a hit. So you do not want to get hit, but you want to get as many motes as possible. And so for that reason, I'm stacking strength and life, and I'm getting a lot of increased maximum life, which is something that is very scarce in Path of Exile. Increased maximum life is not widely available. So I'm getting right now 36% increased life, but I don't want to get hit, because if I do get hit, I'll lose all my life. So, but I still want to stack strength, because strength will give me 2 life, 2 flat life per strength to scale my life even further. So how can I make it so that I can scale evasion while stacking strength and not getting my motes removed? Well, this is where Sunken Vessel comes in. It converts all of my armor to evasion, so that allows me to put on all of the strength and armor bases, all of the armor bases that require strength to equip, while still getting a lot of evasion, because I will convert all of my armor to evasion. And so that means that we're not getting a lot of armor though, but our physical damage from enemies hitting you is unlucky. So that will make it so that we will not get hit by very, very high physical damage hits. And so in this game, armor works in a way where the bigger the hit, the less your armor is effective at reducing the damage that you take from it. So you do not want to take big physical damage hits. So this is one part. The second part is here. If you have, for each color of targeted support gem that is most numerous, so I am equipping as many strength supports as dex support, as you will be able to see here in a second. Hits against you have no critical damage bonus. That will make it so that I will never get crit by anything, or like rather they will like the crits will just do regular damage, and damage will be unlucky against me. And I am then converting some of my evasion rating as extra, well, not converting, but I am gaining evasion rating as extra armor, because conversion would remove that evasion and put as armor, but gain as extra is just extra on top of everything else, right? So this is what lets me get some armor. Still, I'm still working on all of the min-max of this build, but so far this is what I'm doing. So I'm getting some evasion, I'm getting some armor, I'm getting damage is unlucky against me for physical, and also have a chance to avoid projectiles. So this is like another nice thing for projectiles. And I am stacking life. So at the moment I am sitting at 4,000 life. And yeah, and then you have refutation to like just take no damage from any hits. So while it might not seem very tanky, just mechanically, because you have screen-wide AoE, and you have very, very good damage, and you have many ways of, you know, preventing damage with refutation, and because you're a life build, your potions have actually a very big impact on your recovery and your survivability. So you can just, you know, spamming your potion just will let you get some more tankiness. So that is the main idea of the build: converting armor to evasion, gaining some evasion as extra armor. This makes you blind as well. So this is another item, Decree of Acuity, which makes you blind. So what does blind do? It gives you more, it gives you usually less evasion rating, but the opposite of blind, because the effect of blind on you is reverse, the opposite is more blind. So that will give you 20% more evasion rating. And if currently it is bugged, but it could work with this node here, which gives you increased blind effect for blinding flash. So 20% increased blind effect. And there is another one here that gives you 50% that you could allocate as well. Pocket Sand, increased blind effect. So that is the main idea. So you would have like over 30% more more evasion rating if you had those allocated. So this is a bug. Eventually it will get fixed and the build will be even tankier. So that is the main idea. Next up, what we're doing is we are also getting Advanced Thaumaturgy. So gem quality grants Sagadet's skills an additional effect. So all of your skills have additional effect. As you can see, my Mortar Cannon gets +2 totems here. My Cluster Grenades gets 84% reduced detonation time. The Explosive Grenades gets +4 projectiles. So there's just a lot of nice things that you get on every single one of your skills. Flash Grenades get extra damage as lightning, which will help also shock things. This is the same reduced detonation time. So at Gas Grenade, I get more fire damage. All of these here, these other skills are only used to get access to more motes of a certain type. So I'm trying to target as many strength skills as possible, and then also getting for Gem Studded, I'm supporting them so that I can have the same amount of strength and dexterity supports, so I get less movement speed penalty from using a skill while moving, and no crit damage bonus dealt to me. The last thing here is Overwhelming Presence and Eternal Rage. So Overwhelming Presence reduces the element threshold of enemies, makes them easier to stun, makes them easier to get shocked. So it's just like a very, very nice initially. As you get more and more damage, you might not need this and you could replace this by something else, but for now I'm still using it. And then the Eternal Rage gives you rage per second. So rage, what that does is it will increase your it gives you a more multiplier for attack damage, so you will be able to deal more damage with your ballistas. So that kind of like covers this. Let's go over the rest of the gear. Currently I'm using Mage Blood. You don't have to use Mage Blood. You can use like just a regular belt with life and resistances and attributes. So mainly you're trying to go for as much strength as possible. You want to cap all of your resistances, of course, and then you want to get as much life as possible. So that is what I'm going for from pretty much all of my gear, and I'm stacking armor on my gear to try to get as much as possible. That will get converted to evasion rating, and then I can scale this with % evasion rating, right? So a nice little thing that I have included as well is there is a new thing in PoE which has the ability for you to like follow a build guide with a build planner inside of the game itself. So on every single piece of gear, I've added some ways to craft your own budget version of this. These are not like the Giga min-max crafts, but they are definitely some good ways of obtaining gear. And I think that is something that is not often talked about in guides, which is how to get your own items and then craft them, especially if you're playing SSF, for example. Doesn't mean that you will be playing SSF, but this can be a very good way of, you know, getting into crafting. And I really think that everybody should try to get into crafting in PoE. It is a vital part of the game, even though you can't completely play the game without it. I mean, it's you're ignoring a complete system that just interacts with everything that you do in the game. I think it's just like a really, really good knowledge to have. And, you know, getting started with it, it is quite daunting because a lot of things in this game are also sort of like hidden in certain places. Like you don't have like a sort of centralized crafting station with all of the different options that you can do. You have to like, you know, you have to get into all of the abyss crafts, all of the essence craft, all of the ritual crafts, all of the, like, there's so many different options that you can do. But yeah, I'm gonna try to introduce you guys to some of these. So the recipes are all in these little thingies here on the side, in the little notes. So I might do some more video. I am thinking about actually probably covering this game way more, because I think this patch has gotten me way more into the game, and I do enjoy the game quite a bit more than in the previous patches. I think the game has gotten much better in the end game, with a much better sense of direction, and you know, the end game feels more like you have goals to accomplish, and that is something in ARPGs that you must have, is goals. But okay, that's kind of like going off the track here. I want to really go into the build guide. I don't want to make this like a 1-hour video, but for basically, I am going for Decree of Equity. As I said, Mage Blood, but you can get any sort of belt with, you know, life, armor, resistances, and attributes. Is that what you're going for? All of these on the boots? Of course, you want to get move speed, life, as much armor as possible, resistances. I am going for the unusual unset ring. I'm not going for rarity on my gear. I feel like this patch has just been so good on dropping currency, even without rarity. Like, of course, you would make more with rarity, but I decided to invest into character power and go into farming strategies that don't really involve that much rarity anyways. Like, I'm currently boss rushing with Delirium, and, you know, getting some splinters, getting some fragments. Fragments are really, really good to sell. So that's how I'm making most of my currency. So I went with Unset Ring to get 1 extra skill slot, which feeds into the Virtuous Barrier to get maximum life per strength mode, and evasion and energy shield per dexterity mode. So that is why I'm using Unset Rings. They're also very cheap, and all of my gear here is all self-crafted. I decided this patch to go into the patch with only self-crafted gear. So that's what I did, and the recipe is right here, right? So that's what I did for this one. That's what I did for this one as well. And then for the amulet, Amulet has something special. Because you want to get so much quality, you want to get at least 40% quality on Mortar Cannon to be able to get 2 totems, which is going to be a nice buff to your damage. You go for 5% quality, 5% quality on the suffix on your amulet, and you allocate Paragon. Paragon is a hidden, it's a hidden node here that gives you 5% quality to all skills and 5 all attributes. It is quite expensive to allocate, though, to anoint, so keep that in mind. We go for Spirit, as you know, if you need it, if you have the funds to go with Spirit as well, go for it. That will allow you to get more buffs like Overwhelming Presence, or I am using here Vitality 2 to get life regeneration per maximum life. So because we're stacking life, this is pretty good. And her Declaration, as I said, to get DR. So that is the main thing. Other than this, you want to get life, you want to get defensive attributes here, and attributes. On the weapon here, I am using a pretty good weapon that I've also crafted myself. So this is the recipe this is the recipe for a budget craft. This is not the recipe for a craft like this one. This one is quite expensive to do. It probably cost me over 100 divines to craft, but it's worth way more. And this is the crossbow I'm going to use until the end of the lifetime of my character, probably. So you want to go with as much physical damage as possible, and if you can get a lightning damage roll on this, it will make it easier for you to shock enemies, and shock will just increase your damage by giving you this buff here with Innervate. Killing a shocked enemies will give you 25% damage as extra lightning, and then shock also makes them take increased damage. So this is why I'm going with this. And then I have 4 suffixes on here because I am using Surly's Triumph. All equipment gets +1 suffix modifier allowed. So I managed to get +3 level of all attack skills and +2 maximum number of summoned ballista totems. These are target craftable with Astrid's Creativity, which lets you get 2 crafted mods on an item. And then I put 25% chance for grenades to activate a second time on my fort prefix, which is also guaranteed with an abyss craft. So 3 of my suffixes are guaranteed. This just makes for an absolutely crazy crossbow. And yeah, so I have 100% chance for grenades to activate a second time because I am using grenades Ancient Rune of Detonation, which gives you 10% chance to activate a second time. So with 25 plus 10 plus payload plus 15% chance to activate a second time, I am reaching 100%. If you went with 20% increased physical damage on here, you would have a bigger, technical, bigger DPS upgrade, but this 10% chance to activate a second time makes it so that I always have my double detonation, and so it makes my damage more consistent, and I decided to go with this instead. So feel free to do whatever you want, but this is a pretty giga crossbow. So that is pretty much it for the crossbow. As I said, all the crafting recipes are here. The life flask, you want to go for instant recovery. So because if you ever get stunned, you can still, heavy stun, you can still use flask while you are downed. So, using your flask will let you recover if your totems are not already killing all the monsters while you are downed. The mana flask, it's important to go for increased charges. The reason why is I'm using Ambrosia on my explosive grenade. Since I'm using explosive grenade to shock enemies, I want to give it as much lighting damage, because the bigger lighting damage that you get, the easier it will be for you to shock enemies. So this is why I am using a as high as possible increased charge mana flask. On your charms here, I'm using Rite of Passage with Spirit of the Bear. Spirit of the Bear will give you increased maximum life, stun threshold, which is also nice with Refutation, right? Because Refutation makes you easier to heavy stun. It gives you life, stun threshold, and mainly 20% reduced damage taken. So for us, this is amazing, as nothing feels better than being very tanky in any ARPG. Damage is good, but never dying is also very nice. The 2 other ones are kind of up in the air. I am using a Silver Charm, use when affected by a slow. So I am unaffected by slows. So this is very good for chilled ground maps and stuff like that. And it will give me Onslaught, which gives me skill speed and movement speed. So this is gonna make me skill speed will let me summon my totems faster, move faster with a 10% movement speed and all that stuff. So, and I'm also using immunity to shock because, again, I want to be tanky. I don't want to get more damage taken. And it makes lighting damage of enemies hitting you unlucky. So, just another tanky option here. You can use whichever other 2 other charms that you want. And Rite of Passage is very expensive. So, you might not have this early on. Just use whatever you have. All right, so that pretty much covers the gear, right? Next for the skills. There's a couple of things that I want to talk about. So we've already talked about this and this. For gem studded, each color of support gem that is most numerous, you gain a bonus. It's very important that I would recommend not using putting any gems in crossbow shot, because even though this it's not based on the number that is up here, it's quite buggy. And on crossbow shot, or if you're using some spirit supports, spirit skills and supporting them, it might not work exactly with the number of gems, because on weapon set 1, weapon set 2, some spirit skills have to be active in both sets. Some have to be can be active in only one set. It is quite buggy. I've tried many different versions. I came up with the fact that I'm not going to use any crossbow shots to socket support gems for gem studded, because it is too buggy, and so I want to be guaranteed to never get crit and always get my less movement penalty. So I'm just going to be sucketing extra gems in my other skills instead. So keep that in mind when you are playing this. So for the skill Virtuous Barrier, we already talked about it. Mortar Cannon, we're using first of all, Mortar Cannon, you want to quality this to 23% to make it easier for you to get to the 40% threshold that you want for 2 extra totems, right? So another option that you could do is socketing in Diala's Desire. It gives you +5 to quality of supported skills. For example, if you don't have the Anoint here for Paragon or something like that, or you have the Anoint but you don't have the quality of all skills, you could use this. But ideally you don't, and you put in Cluster Grenade with this one. This one you could actually go for either quality or +1 level. I decided to go for quality to get like reduced detonation time, because I am using on one set 50% increased detonation time. So the less detonation time that you have, the smaller your AoE on your cluster grenades, and the higher detonation time, the bigger your AoE, right? So you must try to find a balance of this. And in the guide, I've mentioned that you can use short fuse, for example, short fuse 1 or 2 to lower the detonation time. Short fuse 2 goes up to 80%, but it gives you 30% less damage on it. So up to you, but when you are on the proper setup with 40%, you can use Payload then here. You can use Rigwald's Ferocity. If you do use Rigwald's Ferocity, make sure that your weapon set 2 is the one that you use for your totem stuff. So all of your totem damage is going to be in weapon set 2. And then all of your, my weapon set 1, I use for stun buildup, and I also use to apply elements more effectively and to increase the effectiveness, the magnitude of elements I inflict, so that they take even more damage from shock, right? So that is what I'm doing with this. So if you're using Rigwald's Ferocity, use that. I have other options. Instead of this, you could use Deliberation if you don't have a lot of funds. Rakuta's Flow. This one is also very expensive. It makes monster take elemental damage. It makes enemy monster elemental res values as inverted. So with Rakuta's, you do not want any sort of exposure effect on your build. Penetration does not do anything, but like exposure would actually lower your DPS, because if monsters go into the negative resistances, they will have, you know, positive res instead. So that's going to be very bad. But yeah, instead of this, you could also use some other stuff like fire penetration, for example. Not all of your damage is converted to fire on this build. Cluster Grenade has 20% damage to fire on the primary grenade and 40% to fire on the mini grenade. Mini grenade is what does most of the damage, because every primary grenade explodes into 18 mini grenades, which, you know, they will all shotgun like this. So they all explode at once. Or with your mortar cannons, they just cover the entire screen. So fire penetration is quite nice, and Rakuta's Flow is good. If you really, really want to like min-max your damage against very high resistances enemies, you could also go into Avatar of Fire, but I don't recommend it. It's better to just, you know, go with Rakuta's Flow. This still increases your damage, and you will get damage as extra lightning. You would get, you know, you still get Innervate. You get a lot more, a lot of overall benefits from not going with this. But and you know, if you want to specialize your build, that is something that you could do, going Avatar of Fire. And convert 75% of damage to fire damage. And then for the last one, I'm using multi-shot to add projectiles. Even though it gives you less damage, adding projectiles will give you more coverage and more damage as well. Explosive Grenade. Here I'm getting +4 projectiles. So whenever I'm using Explosive Grenade, I'm using this basically to like clear some trash, shock monsters, give me Innervate, give me damage, take extra damage as lightning. So man, this video is actually taking way longer than I thought it would be. I should structure this way better. I'm sorry for the long video, guys. I'll get better. First PoE 2 build guide since a long time. So yeah. So Nova Proj want to fire them in a circle because I don't want to aim. Like, nobody likes to aim. So I'm just going to do this like this. Short fuse too, so that they detonate way faster. You could decide to go for something else here if you feel like your damage is lacking. I decided to go for like 80% less detonation time because I want to have like instant response from it. Ambrosia to add lightning damage as extra based on my mana flask, right? So that is going to give me damage as lightning to be able to shock better. So currently my shock chance is 3 to 17%. And, you know, against small monsters, it's quite reliable. You get more chance to shock and then innervate to give you 25% damage as lightning upon killing a shocked enemy. Which will also apply then to your mortar cannons that you summon. Flash grenade, I am using the stun in an AoE. So basically, if you are ever in trouble, you can just do a flash grenade. They will stun enemies, and then if you ever stun a rare or unique enemy, you will also recover 50% of your maximum life. So it's very, very good defensively, and you also break armor on heavy stunning an enemy. So it's just very good. I don't really press it that often anymore, but like at the start of my progression, I did spam it a little bit more. So I'm supporting this with multi-shot 2 to add projectiles, Nova Proj because I don't want to aim, stun 3 to stun even more with less damage, but you get 300% more stun buildup, so very good. Payload, which gives you 50% chance for them to activate a second time, and then second win. So second win will heal you based on the cooldown of the skill. So not only do you heal if you heavy stun a rare or unique enemy, but every time that you use it, you will heal all the time. Forgot to mention that we are converting all of our mana cost to life cost. So we are not using mana at all. We're only using life. So all of our skills cost life, but because we have, you know, some regen and we're stacking life and the regen that we have is based upon our maximum life, then it makes the build feel very, very nice, right? Because if you would, at the start of your progression, you will probably not have this unlocked yet because you start on this portion of the tree. You will level up with grenades. You'll go here, you'll grab the totem stuff, and then you probably go here, and then you finally get to blood magic. So until you get there, you still have to use mana potions, but then afterwards, you'll be able to like just use your life as your mana pool, and you'll be able to spam ballistas way better. Refutation, I talked about this as being the flame ward of Path of Exile. So it is just a really, really nice defensive buff. I really strongly recommend you use it. So I give it second wind, cooldown recovery, prolonged duration, and rapid casting to do it a little bit faster. And as I said, because our totems are our main damage ability, even though we get heavy stun, our totems will still kill every target. One thing I forgot to mention with Mortar Cannon, currently it is bugged in this patch. So I'm supposed to have only 6 totems, but for some reason, since one of the previous hotfixes, we now have access to +1 totem. So we just, like, every totem, I think it's every totem build, just has access to 1 extra totem. I know it won't make or break the build, but it's quite nice. Next we have Shockwave Totem, Infernal Cry, Seismic Cry. All of these are only here to add strength skills for the Virtuous Barrier nodes to get more increased life. So this is just for this. And then the supports are only there to support them to fix my strength and dexterity supports here. Then Overwhelming Presence here. We are using Armor Demolisher. These are just these are just to increase my support as well. So Overwhelming Presence, we are giving ourselves, giving enemies in our presence less element threshold, easier to shock, easier to stun. Eternal Rage. Wait, actually, this element might not be stun. Actually, it might only be immobilize. Yeah. So it's just this is just for shock, and then no. Okay, because they also have reduced stun threshold. Yeah. The element is only for shock, but then this is also good for stuns. And then why do we want to stun? We also want to stun because we have Perfect Opportunity, which gives us increased stun buildup, and damage when hit is lucky against heavy stunned enemies. This is like almost like a 15% more damage multiplier just by allocating this one here. So it's really, really strong. Perfect Opportunity. Against bosses, for example, you will shotgun them with Cluster Grenade, and if they don't die instantly, then all of your hits against them are going to have this lucky modifier here. Eternal Rage gives us rage for free. So basically, you always have your rage, always 30 rage, and then that gives us a more multiplier. All right, so now that we've talked about all of the skills, all of the gear, let's go over the passives and some of the choices that I make. We've already talked about these. The thing with the Ascendancy, though, is that you can decide to go for something else. Like, you don't have to go for Integrated Efficiency, for example. I went with this to be able to, like, summon my ballistas faster. But you could definitely go for, like, 2 extra quality and then give yourself +2 level of all skills with a strength requirement. Cluster Grenade gets about 6% more damage per level. So it's not as much as some other skills, but 6% is still 6%. So, and this is multiplicative for each level, right? So you could decide to go here. You could decide to use some different gems and use attributes requirement of gems can be satisfied by your highest attribute. Or you could even decide to go for here. So the only mandatory thing is Advanced Thaumaturgy. Everything else is kind of like up in the air what you want to do. But this is what I decided to go for. Then you go here. You grab the strength, and then you go for projectile damage and stun buildup, which also gives us attributes. So this is quite an efficient node. We go down here. We grab all of these nodes here for increased damage with two-handed weapons. These all together are about equal to 15% increased damage per node, but also gives you stun buildup and also lets you have access to area damage and strength. This is quite nice. I'm going for almost 1% of maximum life regenerated per second and flask life recovery rate. On a life build, this is quite nice. Then on a weapon set, I'm going to go on the weapon set afterwards. Then, one thing that I do here is I am grabbing Controlled Metamorphosis. This one is absolute, like, I would say this one is kind of mandatory for the build because it is so efficient. So this one lets you allocate passives that are not connected to your tree in a very large ring. So, right, so these ones you can buy with either very large ring, medium ring, small ring. There's a lot of different ones. So make sure that you are searching for a very large ring. And then they give you a certain amount of minus elemental res. You know, try to go for as much as you can maintain. But this one is absolutely amazing for this reason. It gives us access to +1 cooldown use on grenade skills, which you need to have for your mortars to be able to shoot 2 times instead of only once. The cluster grenade. Momentum, which gives us movement penalty from armor. This one is a lot of movement speed. Don't underestimate this one. Movement speed is a very premium stat in the game. This one is very good. 25% increased attack area damage and increased armor break duration. It gives us 8% chance to blind enemies on hit with attacks. Blind is required on any evasion build. If you are playing an evasion character and you're not blinding enemies, you are missing out on a lot of less accuracy because the accuracy rating goes against your evasion rating. So the less accuracy that they have, the less it will hit you, and the more effective your evasion actually is. This will also get applied by your totems, by the way. So everything on the screen will always get blind by just speccing one node here. You get access to immune to bleeding because we have more armor than energy shield on our helm. So we are immune to bleeding. We get 15% increased armor and evasion. We get 25% increased armor and evasion. And stun threshold equal to the lowest of evasion and armor rating here. So we don't get stunned very much, which makes also refutation even better. And then you get access to some, well, these like are not really necessarily needed with this one. But you get 1, 2, 3, 4, potentially 5 with increased blind effect once they fix the Decree of Acuity bug. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 nodes that are super efficient for one of this jewel. I think it's mandatory. So this is what you go for. You know, before you have this one, just don't don't pad towards, don't pad towards momentum or this one or this one or any of these. Just put your point somewhere else, but try to get it eventually. Then you want to get reduced detonation time, because the lower your fuse duration again on your cluster grenade, you can see here fuse duration is 0.02 seconds. This is what makes it so that I can really shotgun with all of my grenades, and that will make a very big damage against like very big instantaneous damage against any target that I want to kill instantly, and I don't want to wait for my mortar cannons to shoot. So reduced detonation time is super important. Then you want to go for chance for grenades to activate a second time. Also very good. With my setup, I reach 100% chance. You get this note here. Maximum life if you have 10 red supports, and movement speed if you have 10 green support gems socketed. So I have both, so I get both of these things. Again, movement speed and life are 2 premium stats. And then you want to get as much... you just need to have as much dexterity as possible so that you can equip your gear. For example, your crossbow, which is most likely going to be 82 dexterity. So that's going to be the dexterity nodes. Every other node, you want to get as much strength as possible and the minimum required dexterity to equip your gear. +1 evasion rating per 1 item armor on equipped gloves. So this makes you double dip from your mitts, which have a lot of armor. Oh, remember to not actually, do not convert these to a Runeforged version with Runic Ward, because it will remove a lot of your armor, and so this will not get converted to evasion rating anymore, right? Since it will be much lower. We're trying to stack as much evasion as possible. Then we're going for +1 ballista totems. Very important. This one I have on a weapon set 2 because it's only available for the mortar cannons. We don't need this when we're trying to shock or stun enemies. So weapon set 2 for this one. This one I still keep on weapon set 1 with fortified location, attack damage per summoned totem in your presence, and armor and evasion rating. So this is giving us, currently 70% increased damage, and also 70% increased armor and evasion. We are gain 4% damage as extra fire damage for each different grenade fire in past 8 seconds. So early on, if you need more damage, just move around while spamming different types of grenades. That will increase your damage quite significantly, because it will give you 4% damage as extra. 50% reduced detonation time. We already talked about this, why it's good. Prism of Belief. I went for a, what I could afford at the time, +2 level of all cluster grenade skills. This one can go up to +3. Again, I talked about it. It's 6%, about 6% more damage per level of cluster grenade. So try to get a +3 if you can, but any other gem that is useful can be good. This is just for raw damage. Regen 1% maximum life while you have a totem, and the totems regenerate 3% maximum life per second. Because we're using all of our skills as life cost, the regen life, and we're also scaling on life, this is very nice. We have 10% reduced maximum mana, but we are not using mana, and we get 1% increased damage per 15 strength, and then all of these other nodes gives us a lot of strength as well. So this one is quite good. Then we're going for watchtowers. Each totem applies 2% increased damage taken to enemies in their presence. So because we have 7, enemies will take 14% increased damage. So that is going to be a lot of damage for us. This cluster here is 12, 12, 12, and then it's a huge 50% attack damage with stun buildup. So this one is just absolutely amazing for increased damage. Very efficient cluster. And on our other weapon set, on the weapon set 1, we are grabbing magnitude of elements that you inflict to get even more shock magnitude. So this one is quite important. Then we are moving here. Weapon set 1 is going to be used for breaking armor on heavy stunning an enemy, recovering max life when we heavy stun, and then increased stun buildup. Weapon set 2 is going to be used for totem placement speed. So the more totem placement speed, the better it's going to feel to play the build, and the more it's going to be... basically, you won't feel like you're getting slowed as much when you are mapping and moving around. So placement speed, and this one The attack and cast speed is, it does affect the totems, but it affects the speed at which a totem will fire their second shot. It does not affect the speed at which a totem will fire their first shot. The first shot is affected by totem placement speed, so that after being placed, now they have like a certain amount of time before they can start shooting. So that is what this is doing. Blood magic to convert all of our mana costs to skills costs to life cost. But we won't have any mana. And then another socket here. Passive in radius of Bulwark can be allocated. So initially I went for the passive in the range of here, but I went for Bulwark afterwards because we get Perfect Opportunity. We also get increased life recovery rate. So life recovery rate is different from life regen. So life recovery rate is like a multiplier of all of our recovery methods. And so because the armor here is giving us 30% reduced, giving us 50% increase will counteract some of this. And a corruption you can get on this would also be to have less reduced life recovery rate. So that would be quite nice. But yeah, so we go for this. We get a nice efficient 20% increased damage with crossbows for 1 point here. And we also get increased stun buildup for our weapon set 1. Weapon set 1 for stun buildup. Weapon set 1, 1, 1. This is the main passive, and main passive. And then we go here for our weapon set 2 for our totem stuff. We get some totem placement speed and totem placement range. So 50% increased totem placement range just makes it much nicer to be able to place our totems further from us. And then we go for totem damage, and then again some more totem damage, and they get attack and cast speed per summon totems. So this pretty much covers the passives. Wait, no. Cluster bombs. You have to put this on weapon set 2. And I'm gonna explain how to set up your skills on which weapon sets, but it's on weapon set 2 because you don't want to have this for cluster grenade. Because it will increase the detonation time too much, so that you don't have the nice shotgunning effect, right? So you only want to have this for your weapon set 1 to have good clear on your mortar cannons and insane single target on your cluster grenade that you use yourself. So now there's a couple of things you want to do. You want to set your mortar cannon to only use weapon set 2, explosive to only use weapon set 1, flash grenade to only use weapon set 1, cluster grenade 1, gas grenade 1, refutation you keep on both, overwhelming presence you keep on both, and eternal rage is always active on both. And to lock your same weapon on both sets, you right click here. You right click your weapon set 1 and 2, and you'll see this little lock appear. That will make it that both of your weapon set will use the same weapon for both, so that you don't need to have to find another weapon to play this. All right? So I think that covers pretty much everything that I wanted to talk about for the build, and most of the interactions. That was a very long video, actually. I'm sorry for being this long with the video, but I think I'll get better in the future with the next guides. So this is still, like, you know, somewhat of a work in progress. I am still working on this. I can show what I have here. I have socketed life. I have socketed the Fox Idol to get 5% increased quality. I have Tekrot's Gates for 1.5 maximum regen per second. Life, movement speed on the boots, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I think you can expect to see more PoE 2 content from me going forward. And yeah, I just hope the game getting better, because it was pretty good dispatch, and I'm still blasting. And if you have any question, feel free to stop by my Twitch. I'm here pretty much every day, and I'll be able to answer your questions if you have any questions about the game. So especially in the crafting department, I can probably, you know, I do want to make more crafting notes on this. The link will be in the description of the video for the build planner here, which I'm gonna keep updating. It's not complete yet, but you know, I will keep updating this build as long as I can to make it as good as it can be. So hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.